Hello and welcome to episode 73, where I thought I'd just give you a update on this pedal steel idea that we've got. And I'm trying to set up a new copedant, one that will let me play a particular piece of music slightly easier. So what I'm looking for are ways of changing the pitch of the strings with the pedals so that the notes that it produces will be available fairly simply within the song. So in other words, I'm trying to avoid too much moving of the left hand and do most of the note tweaking with my feet. Now that's important for a number of reasons really, is because if you actually twang a chord, technical term twang probably not, but if you play a chord, you can then move notes within that chord to play the melody that's within it, if that makes some sort of sense. I'm now to the stage where I've got that one. So in a chord, that's the C chord, and if you're looking at the C chord, moving that E to an F is a fairly standard thing. I can also do now the snag, of course, is that wasn't actually in tune, so I think I better just have a tweak of some of these to see if I can get this this particular shift back to where it should be, because it's going to be matched in with another one, that one there. So that's my quest. I'm now going to have a go and see if I can get the screwdrivers out, and we'll see if we can make those play in tune. So I'm going to take those two notes there and I'm going to raise them up by a whole tone. Now at the moment, that's sort of what I've got halfway there. Just those two strings are going to go up by a whole tone, but they're not in tune. Too sharp, isn't it? So what I need to do is get the screwdriver. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I think it's the 7th one along. So let's have a look. Yeah, that's the one. So I've got my foot stamped on the pedal. Yeah, that's correct. But the next one, so do these two together? Oh no, that's wrong, isn't it? Right, okay. So I want to come across 2, and this hopefully will be the right one. If not, you've messed it all up. This one. Ah, that's it. Got the right one. So that's in tune. So let's make sure I've not messed any others up. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. go. So I'm not using this hand at all, and so my quest is to find adjustments and a tweak of this copedant idea to let me play sort of a range of notes, starting on this one. Go. You get the idea. Which of course are notes in. You get the idea? So on my second pedal, I've now got these two which play an octave apart, and I can move them up. So that's working, and that's in tune. And I sort of think I've sort of got there. So I've now got these things doing what I want. I mentioned in the previous video, when we started to look at pedal steels, the perils of buying them second hand. And the biggest problem with buying them is that when they're not looked after, they have a horrible habit of going out of tune. I don't mean going out of tune as in an ordinary guitar where you just need to sort of, bash your tuner, turn a peg and bring it back in. String stretching type tuning issues. I mean these little saddles that we looked at that move. I suppose one of the things we should look at first with pedal steels is the gizmo that moves the strings. Now, I mentioned about the saddles moving. Well, that mechanism in a pedal steel is called a compensator. And a compensator is just a load of individual fingers. Now, in this particular one, it means there are 16 possibilities on the 8 strings for them to go up or for them to go down. And all it is a little wedge mechanism. You tug on one and it pulls the saddle back, stretching the string, which makes the pitch higher. If you tug on the other one, it moves the saddle forwards, lowering the pitch. On this particular one, and I've got some pictures for you, it's incredibly basic construction. Each one of these pedals operates a rod. The rod goes up to the top. There's a little crank arm, and then a piece of plastic covered cable goes around some pulleys. So it runs along here, around some pulleys at this end, and they go back to pull the levers that are buried underneath what in an ordinary guitar would be considered to be the bridge. So there are cables, and you can connect those cables to any of the 16 dangling levers. Essentially, you decide what you want to happen when you push a certain pedal or use one of the knee levers, and that pulls on the pulley thing then pulls that. It pulls the little lever on the bottom of the compensator, and whatever you decided happens. There are a load of little adjustments underneath here that tighten up the cables so there's not too much slack in them. And then at the end here are 16 adjustments, 2 per string. So to make it easier to locate in dark light, they're actually coloured black, silver, black, silver, black, silver as you go across. And each pair will do how much up and how much down. So now on this particular one, I think I've got it in tune, and the tuning system, my copedant if you like, has been set to the things that probably for me are the most important. I can do majors, I can do minors, I can do both kinds of sevenths. I've even got the option to do some sixths. So if I do, so I've got a C at the top with open strings. I've got an identical unison C. If I do both together and push my 4th pedal, so it's adding a D, so it's a 9th. So I've got the option of having a 9th. Don't use it very often in terms of a chord perhaps, but you do if you're trying to actually play melodies. That's using two strings. C with the pedal, D, and then the E is an open string on the next one. So if you're up to there, so you've got the E, that first pedal will then give you the F. So that's another one. Then we've got a G on that one. We've got quite a few in a little run here. Get the idea? So if we go from the bottom, the lowest note on this, we've now got quite a range of notes that we could add in to all these different chords. If we go from the bottom now, the lowest note, the C, we can go up, right up to the top note, and without using any of our left hand, we can get a whole range of notes. In the earlier video I mentioned that we need 2 feet, 2 knees, 2 hands. Well, I didn't actually talk very much about what your right foot is doing. Now, while your right foot could press some of the levers, practically every pedal steel player uses the right foot for a volume pedal. And the volume pedal is used to counteract the decay in the strings. So you have the volume pedal on low, you twang the string, and as the string decays in volume, the right foot brings the pedal down and that decaying note remains constant. It's pretty clever. You can do similar sounding things using a compressor if you want to. The compressor can be set so that as the note decays, the volume goes up. I mean, they're very good at doing that. But of course, it's an automatic feature as opposed to something you're controlling yourself. We were talking about buying a pedal steel on eBay, and the biggest problem that often makes people sell them for less money than they're worth is that they have a habit of going out of tune. Now, I don't mean the sort of tuning we're looking at here where we're adjusting how much the strings go up and go down on each lever press. I mean tuning like we have the problem with a whammy bar on a guitar. Now, I mean, most people that have got a guitar with a whammy bar are not happy with them. There are very few people who manage to get them set up exactly right so that when you let go of the bar, the thing springs back perfectly into pitch. The better ones get there most times, and some of the very expensive ones seem to have very, very well machined knife edges that sort of counteract spring pressure with string tension. And when you let go and stop annoying the whammy bar, it goes back to pretty much where it was before you fiddle with it. And the same thing happens with these compensators. But if there are 16 of these individual little mechanisms in an 8-string pedal steel, and if you've got a 10-string pedal steel, then of course you can have 20 of these things. If they don't go back to the exact correct pitch, it has really messed up your chords, because you've got no way, without retuning, of restoring a perfect tuning for a chord. Imagine using your whammy bar and then being unable to actually get back to normal. It would be horrible. It would sound absolutely dreadful. Some strings will have shifted, some won't. So what often happens is people who don't know any better lubricate the mechanism, that compensator that's in there, and they'll squirt some oil on it, and it seems to make the thing restore properly. You take your feet off the pedals and the knee levers and it goes back to where it should be. The trouble is it also collects all the dust and the grime and if we're working on stage, you've got all that stuff that's floating around in the haze, dust, and these compensators turn black, which is the usual sort of symptom of them. It's muck. The actual oil itself is normally transparent, isn't it? But when you've had them lubricated and look underneath, you'll discover there's all this nasty black stuff. It's just rubbish that's in the air. If you buy your eBay special, as I did, and got, I think, a bargain, he was absolutely right. The man who sold it to me said it didn't play in tune, and it certainly didn't. And the usual thing that people do to fix it is a fairly crude thing, but you take the compensator out, dismantle it so you've got all these individual little feelers, and then you wash off all of the grease and the grime and the dirt and the oil. I actually use petrol. It's a good solvent, dissolved all the stuff, and then I wiped every single one of these down, made sure it was dry and clean, and then for about £3.50 from one of the local retailers, I bought some silicone spray, a very light touch of silicone spray, which is incredibly slippery for the tiny amount that you put on, and that's what most people use. Silicone is far, far better than conventional sort of machine oil, which is the nasty stuff that most people would probably have on their shelves. I mean, a good one, WD-40, it's great for oiling things, it's great for lubricating locks and stuff like that. But it's the kiss of death for one of these things. If you put WD-40 on it, you really, really are going to have to start getting it off again, maybe in as little time as 2 or 3 weeks. Because you take your foot off the pedal, and instead of going back to the perfect C that it should have been, it goes back to nearly a C. And then that wrecks everything. And if you're going to be playing at many positions, there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. People who play lap steel guitars, or those that use a finger and do open tuning on an ordinary guitar, they know what bad tuning sounds like. And you just don't want it. I mean, these things are very simple. And in my case, 8 strings suspended way above what looks like a fretboard, but it's just there for markers. One single pickup, tone control, volume control, and then this magic compensation unit at the end. And that's pretty much all they are. It's a block of wood. So tuning it on these is pretty stable, because it's not like there's a truss rod or anything trying to fight the tension. It's just a whacking great lump of, in this case, wood. Quite a few others are made out of metal or composite materials, and pretty much they stay in tune. The nut, or what would be a nut on an ordinary guitar, is rollers. So as the strings are being pulled and then let go a little bit, everything just rotates very slightly. There's very little friction, and these things stay in tune pretty well. The thing that kills it are these oily things. So if you buy one on eBay, almost certainly, if it's been sold like as dodgy tuning, all it needs is cleaning. It won't be anything else, because, being honest, there is nothing else. The compensators do wear, but I mean, the one in here is probably getting on for certainly 40 years. It's probably even older than that. I don't know when these Fender 400s were first made. But, it's done pretty decent service, and it's still in really decent mechanical nick, because it's such a basic instrument. The only thing that's wrong with this one is my left knee lever is an original Fender. My right knee lever is actually the spanner that came off a router. It was the only thing that I could find at short notice when I was doing a recording one day, and I needed that right one, and I couldn't find out where on earth the original lever had gone. I'd taken it off for some silly reason. So in actual fact, for the last 10 years, my router tool has been doing sterling service as a knee lever on my guitar. But there we go, that's another story. So that's basically how these things work. Very simple, proper lubrication, proper cleaning, and that's probably about it really from the point of view of maintenance. On this particular one, despite the constant stretching and shrinking of the strings, I've never broken a string yet. It just goes to show that on an ordinary guitar, the fact that we break strings fairly often is more to do with the way that we play it than the actual stretching of the string. I mean, this one has been stretched so many times, I mean, with all these levers. It's amazing, isn't it, really? So I suppose the question is, should you buy a pedal steel if one comes up? Well, I don't think you should buy a brand new one unless you are already an expert. But if one comes up at sensible money, you'd be daft not to buy it, because most of the faults that it's likely to have are not going to be terminal if it's been looked after. It's probably just going to be stripping it down, cleaning it, and then tweaking it. But they are a huge amount of brain work to make work. And I think that's the killer for many people. You have to work really hard. You have to bone up on your music theory. And then, and only then, can you even start to play the damn things. So I won't get rid of this one. I don't play it very often. But it's a magic beast. Look after yourselves. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.